Little known indie manga Chainsaw Man started its run with quite possibly the most hype that any anime has ever had going into episode 1. And while some people will argue whether or not it actually lived up to that hype, I think it's hard to deny the fact that we just watched the birth of a new Goliath in the anime world. The more keen-eyed viewers may have noticed that I'm somewhat of a Chainsaw Man enjoyer myself. I'm not too into it or anything, but you could call me a fan. Chainsaw Man goes insanely hard. It's a dark and depressing show with a slew of moments that are purposely left ambiguous and up to the viewer's interpretation, while also being a high-energy, action-packed, and crazy fun experience that has a world and overarching story simple enough to really dig your teeth into without ever leaving you feeling really totally lost. Which is why for a lot of people, Denji is one of the greatest anime protagonists of all time. He is fantastically simple-minded. He has few priorities in life and wears all of them on his sleeve. And even when he starts to accomplish these goals and deals with that little struggle of wondering what to do next, he doesn't really let it get to him, which is very refreshing to see, while the majority of the world around him is in a constant state of dread. And regardless of how you feel about whether or not his motivations are admirable or not, can't argue that he's not dedicated. And not only is Denji a man of culture, but also he's a dude with chainsaws for hands. Which, it's called Chainsaw Man, so it checks out, but still badass. Hey man, you gonna give me that damn rent money you owe me, or what are you doing? I'm just getting ready to go out. Go out where? Thinking about killing some devils, maybe getting some Chick-fil-A. And to do that, you're attaching a circular saw to your hand with duct tape. Well, and a jigsaw. I was gonna use the chainsaws, but I couldn't find ours. You wanna come? You know what? I was actually just getting hungry. Let's go. Denji is obviously a highlight of the show, but in reality, so is the entire cast. Power is truly the pinnacle of life on Earth. She is fantastic in every way imaginable, and I will not be hearing otherwise. Every scene with Power in it is better for having her in it, and also she acts as the other primary source of comic relief in the show, which in a world with as much death as we get in Chainsaw Man, it is a commodity that is very much appreciated. My boy Aki acts as the perfect straight man for the two. They both bounce off of him in ways that help keep either of those characters from getting annoying or ruining the more serious mood when the tone needs to stay that way. Kobeni is literally perfect. And if you believe otherwise, then all I'm going to say is make sure you keep your doors locked tonight, all right? I also love how Himeno provides a way of looking into the mind of a long-term devil hunter, as well as her adding a lot of depth to Aki through their interactions. Kishibe is a personal favorite of mine and is the most badass character in the story, bar none. And while we haven't really gotten to know them much yet in the anime, which is why I won't say too much on them, both Beam and the Angel Devil will 100% be fan favorites. We actually haven't even gotten to meet two of the most popular characters in the series yet. Those ranking in at 4th and 7th most popular, at least according to a very famous character popularity poll from the manga. So manga fans definitely know who I'm talking about. The former of the two, though, we actually get to see a little preview of at pretty much the very end of the last episode in the series, which was nice to see. And the latter of the two, actually, I thought I saw like 4 different times. And I kept jumping out of my seat when I thought I saw them, forgetting that they don't come in until probably near the end of season 2, if I'm remembering the events of the manga in the right order. So yeah, all the characters are fantastic, every single one of them. Well, except for Makima, obviously. Because if you somehow like Makima, then you are subhuman scum and really should be reevaluating all of your life choices from birth up until now. And I will be awaiting a call from your parents apologizing for allowing you to be raised in such a way, because honestly, that is the very least that they can do. One thing you should note though, if you haven't already noticed from the first season, is that Chainsaw Man kind of treats the death of named characters like a cat treats something that you have near a ledge. They will throw that shit away like it is nothing without warning. Just cuz. Actually, thinking about it now though, season 1 is super tame in comparison to the rest of the series on the big death side. So maybe try your best not to get too attached to like anybody. Because Chainsaw Man is really a series that makes George R.R. Martin look like a sentimental. You almost finished with that next page or what? Yeah. Here you go. It looks good, but you forgot to draw Denji in this panel, and he was clearly on the last page. Really? Yeah, no worries. I can just add him in. I really don't think you can. The panel is really full already. You're just gonna have to redraw the entire page. Oh, don't worry. There is no need for that. I will just take the panel before that and draw Denji to be exploding. Yeah, and since he'll be dead and his body will be gone, there's no need for me to put him in the other panel. Problem solved. How many times have you done this so far? A lot. That explains a lot, actually. Well, as long as you meet the deadline, I'm still getting paid, so you do you. And finish it up. I'll get to work then. Aside from the characters, though, my favorite part of this series has to be the power system in the devils, right? We've got devils, fiends, hybrids, and humans with contracts with devils. Each of these working in their own way, which is interesting in itself. But the thing I really like is how you determine a devil's strength. The most basic way to think about it is that devil's powers are always based off of fears. So it could be something like spiders or snakes, or for you guys, it could be talking to women. And then the amount that it is feared, both in number of individuals fearing it and the level to which they do fear it, kind of determines its strength. And then basically the nature of the fear can be seen as a modifier on top of that. Like, let's say that the same amount of people feared both alligators and geckos to the same level, right? For whatever reason. It would stand to reason that the alligator devil would likely beat the gecko devil's ass. Because there are just like way more ways that its powers could be realized or imagined or like applied in a fight. These fears can also be conceptual things, like a fear of heights or a fear of the dark. But it's much easier to imagine the ways a devil with darkness powers could use them than a devil with height powers. In the Chainsaw Man anime, the strongest devil we get to hear about is the gun devil. Before the start of the story, there was basically a lot of warring going on in the world that heavily featured the use of guns, and a lot of people started to fear them at that time. Combine this with the fact that it is not exactly hard to imagine a few ways that a literal gun devil could use that fear in its powers, and it becomes pretty clear why it's so powerful. The gun devil even uses this concept of how devil power works to its own benefit. When it blows up all those cities, like what we see in Aki's flashbacks, because this causes people to be even more afraid of guns and of the gun devil in particular, in turn making him even more powerful. We see that particular concept brought up and played with in a really interesting way later in the series that I think a lot of people will enjoy. It also allows a devil to be introduced to the show and have an immediate air of power to them without having to spell it out to the viewer. The best example of this that we get in the show is that we all know how many people have fears related to their future. Or maybe you guys don't, since none of your guys' lives are going anywhere and you already know this. But for a lot of people, the fear about the uncertainties to come is a very scary thought. Not to mention, you can easily imagine many ways that a power involving the future could be useful. So when we get a glimpse of the future devil, even with the interesting way he acts, it's very clear that he is a top-notch devil on the power level side. On that topic of future, I did mention earlier a second season of this show, but at the time of this recording, there has not actually been a second season announced yet. But like, come on, no person who saw that show and saw the numbers it was putting up really believes it's not getting another season. Like, it's hugely popular, has taken over a large part of the anime subculture, both in Japan and abroad, and is making them absolute truck tons of money. There will be a second season of this without a doubt. I'm more confident that we get a second season of this than I am that we get the already announced third season of Shield Hero after what they did to the second season. But also, with knowing how MAPPA normally operates, I would not be surprised if the next season isn't for a couple of years, sadly. That is definitely not, though, the primary complaint that most people are having with Nappa right now, as much as they wish it was. But regardless of how you feel about MAPPA and their adaptations of shows, including this one, it's hard to argue that they didn't get a lot right here, at least. Which is kind of just the story with MAPPA in general recently. Amazing product with some kind of glaring issues for certain parts of the community, at least. MAPPA, the Japanese animation company that headed up the creation of the Chainsaw Man anime, has really just been going from banger to banger recently. While they have existed and been making shows, including very popular and well-loved ones, for a long time now, I think for the vast majority of people, it wasn't really until Dororo came out that MAPPA as a studio really started to be talked about. After that, it wasn't long at all before we really got to see what they were capable of with Jujutsu Kaisen, which, in my opinion, is their best showing animation-wise to date. And very shortly after that, they also picked up the reins on quite possibly the biggest anime of all time in Attack on Titan, which had formerly been animated by WIT. Also, sidebar here, what is going on with WIT and MAPPA right now? Like, WIT used to be a very well-respected studio with some huge anime, and it still is, to be fair, but they've given two of their biggest shows, quite arguably the two biggest shows, to MAPPA now. Like, I haven't looked into it to see what's really going on between the two companies yet, but there has to be something, because there's no way that WIT is just giving these up and letting MAPPA poach them one after another. Shit, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Season 2 of Spy Family was picked up by MAPPA. Like, what the hell? And while all of these and many others that they've worked on have performed amazingly in both ratings and reviews, there have always been some pretty vocal detractors. Because MAPPA is maybe the biggest user of CGI in their anime. They use a mix of CGI blending techniques like what Ufotable is famous for doing immaculately, where they kind of blend the CGI and the more traditional type of animation into a single image. But they also use just straight CGI overlay, where an element of CGI is placed into an otherwise regularly animated or drawn world. Now, pretty much every studio uses these techniques to some extent. Essentially, every crowd scene, or tracking scene, or overly intricate character, uses some CGI hidden to different degrees. CGI in the anime world is still somewhat of a taboo concept though. We've had great shows like Land of the Lustrous or Beastars that are primarily CGI and look great and people love. But when you say CGI, most people's minds still go to something like Berserk 2016 or Inuyashiki, which don't do anything to help the argument for CGI being valid in the anime world. It also doesn't help MAPPA when they are the ones responsible for the second one I just named. You can think of CGI in anime similar to how you think of voice acting. When it's done really well, you do not notice it at all. You're just in the experience. But as soon as you do notice it, you are ripped completely out of the experience, even if it's not that horrible. Why am I even talking about this though? Well, that's because the use of CGI by MAPPA can be very heavy-handed. And in shows like Attack on Titan, it isn't uncommon to see fans complaining that it completely ruins scenes or even the whole anime, which has also become the case for Chainsaw Man, which is not to say that everyone is affected by it. A lot of people never notice that a huge amount of Jujutsu Kaisen or Banana Fish are CGI. And I've also heard plenty of people who said they never even noticed it in shows like Attack on Titan or Dororo, when those use it in a much more blatant way. I'd argue that that second group of people probably qualify for disability under blindness, but still they exist. This use of CGI has led to a lot of people bouncing off of Chainsaw Man though, which even as a defender of the show, I can't say that I don't see why. The first episode, in fact, is one of the worst episodes for that, which is sad. And I say this as someone who, while I'm a little bit of an animation snob, I think I am very good at putting up with bad CGI. I mean, shit, I finished watching Arifureta, and that early CGI was atrocious. But even with these reservations, as a whole, I'm very happy with the product that we received. And most fans that I've talked to are on the same page. And even if you are one of these people that is really not happy with the product that we received, you should still take some solace in knowing that we didn't get the One Punch Man Season 2 treatment. Because honestly, the amount of orphans that I've sacrificed trying to make sure that whoever picks up Season 3 actually does it some justice just is not sustainable. But yeah, this video is going to be a lot different. It was going to be primarily on why you should give Chainsaw Man a shot and really what the anime is. But now the first season is over and pretty much everyone did watch it. This season is going to be huge though. There are so many shows that I'm so excited about and I will be making content on. Some of these I've been waiting forever to get an anime and I really didn't think ever would. And I don't think a lot of other people will be talking about them either, which is a tragedy. But that's all I've got for today. Go watch Chainsaw Man. If you're more into reading manga, go read the manga. Part 2 of it just started a little while ago. Make sure you guys like the video and comment to let me know what you thought. I've changed up the set a little bit. I also have new lighting and a new camera that I'm still trying to learn how to use. So if you guys have any advice or you notice anything that's off, then please put it down in the comments, even if you think it's obvious, because I'm still trying to figure all this shit out so that I can make better videos for you guys, especially when I invested so much time and money into getting this all set up. But most importantly, make sure you guys subscribe so that you can be here for that new content that I've got coming up. I assure you that you will not want to miss it, and I'm going to give you guys some peak quality recommendations. But until then, I'll see y'all later. Peace.